Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. Creating a cultivation university, where Japanese and dogs are not allowed to enter. Su Chen travels through a parallel world and signs into the floating fairy island at the beginning. The system allows him to open a cultivation university. At the top of Mount Taishan, Jiulong pulled the coffin, and the fairyland came into existence, which surprised the whole world. Countless people from different countries are still shaking the fairy tale, and Su Chen has silently released the enrollment brochure. Billions of people are dumbfounded. So big a fairy island, you tell me it's a university. 1 month later, the opening ceremony will be broadcast globally. Countless people were completely shocked. Send magic weapons upon enrollment, everyone flies with swords. Students return home package for pick-up and drop off, not by school bus or by Shenlong. Teachers are all immortals, they can grow up after graduation. Why do Japanese and dogs have to go inside? Our Japanese country is not satisfied, and we also have to enroll. 10 years later. Revival of spiritual energy, invasion of thousands of tribes. Billions of alien races have just set foot on the blue star. With a single sword, they come from the west, shining and cold in the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Countless foreign gods and souls have emerged, and both the liver and gallbladder tremble. Your Excellency, who is it? Tianxianyuan, Class 2, Grade 3 of Kendo Major, Liangchen. Alien. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The system allows me to open a Xiuxian university. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blue Star, Mount Taishan. June is the perfect season for mountaineering. At the top of Mount Taishan Mountain, there are many tourists. How about Dezongfu? Qilu is still green. Alright. I know you have culture, unlike me, you only know one amazing thing. Hahaha, truly the leader of the 5 sacred mountains. It's not in vain for me to climb to the top after a tiring day. There are so many people, are they all special forces college students like us? Hundreds or even thousands of tourists gathered in groups of 3 or 2. A noisy clamor surged in from all directions. In contrast, the young figure standing on a remote boulder on the top of Mount Taishan Mountain is very out of place. Call out. Finally reached the summit. I hope this meets the system's requirements for site selection. The young figure standing on the boulder could not help murmuring when looking at the clouds around the top of Mount Taishan Mountain. His name is Su Chen, not a person from this world, but a traveler. A month ago, he traveled to this parallel world that was very similar to the blue star. And it also awakened a system. For the system, Su Chen is certainly not unfamiliar with it, the essential golden finger for travelers. Damn it, my own system is a bit outrageous. My mind twitched. A virtual panel that was only visible to Su Chen appeared in front of him. Xiuxian University Construction System, Main Task. University Site Selection. Task Progress. In progress. Task Deadline. 3 months. That's right. In this modern urban world, what Su Chen activated was not a divine luxury system or an entertainment system, but a cultivation system. It's not even personal cultivation, but the construction system of a cultivation university. The system allows him to open a cultivation university. This is so outrageous. System, are you sure there are no cultivators in this world? Su Chen couldn't help but ask again. According to system testing, this world is the end of the Dharma era with sparse spiritual energy, and there are no cultivators or extraordinary beings on a global scale. Faced with the answer given by the system, Su Chen's mouth twitched. So why did you ask me to build a Xiuxian university? Ding. Please complete the system task as soon as possible and confirm the location of the university. Listening to the cold and ruthless mechanical prompt of the system, Su Chen sighed. University site selection. This is what I have been doing for the past month. According to the system, there are specific requirements for the location of Xiuxian University, preferably in famous mountains and rivers. For this reason, Su Chen, the 5 sacred mountains of China, has climbed 4. Unfortunately, none of them meet the system requirements. And Mount Taishan, as the first of the 5 mountains, is also Su Chen's goal today. If Mount Taishan does not meet the requirements, do you want to go to Mount Everest, or Shenlong, and other places? Su Chen muttered a few words to himself, then took a deep breath and his expression slowly became serious. System. Zhongmen site selection. Top of Mount Taishan. After silently reciting in his heart, Su Chen quietly waited for the system's response. The next moment, the cold mechanical warning sound comes on. The host has chosen the top of Mount Taishan as the site for Zhongmen. The system is currently detecting the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Detecting the air circulation of the earth's veins. Detection. The sound of beeping kept ringing in Su Chen's ear. It took quite a while. Finally, the system has responded. The top of Mount Taishan meets the site selection requirements of Zhongmen. Are you sure about the site selection? Okay. Su Chen didn't even think about it, just gave a reply. At the same time, he finally let out a long sigh of relief. After more than a month of visiting the 5 sacred mountains of China, it can be considered as completing the site selection task. The first and most crucial step in establishing a cultivation university has finally been achieved. Congratulations to the host for completing the site selection task. Host gains task reward. Floating Immortal Island. Floating Immortal Island. A fairy island suspended in the sky for thousands of miles, with its own heaven and earth and abundant spiritual energy, it can be used as a university headquarters. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the task reward. 9 dragons pulling coffin. 9 dragons coffin pulling. A heaven and earth illusion, with 9 divine dragons carrying their coffins, it is extremely powerful and helps to enhance the reputation and prestige of the university. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the task reward. Building Foundation Cultivation. Foundation Cultivation. It can help the host instantly obtain a layer of cultivation realm of building a foundation, with a perfect foundation and a natural state. Task rewards have been issued. The long series of system prompts ringing from the bottom of his heart made Su Chen feel a bit confused for a while. But immediately, he felt as if there was an infinite warm current rushing through his whole body. A mysterious aura seemed to emanate from one's own body. This is building foundation and cultivation. In the last second, I was still an ordinary mortal, and in the blink of an eye, I became a foundation building cultivator. But I haven't waited for Su Chen's surprise yet. Suddenly, he heard the crowd on the top of Mount Taishan mountain burst into screaming. Boom boom. Along with it came a deafening roar. This movement seems to be groundbreaking. Even the giant rock under Su Chen's feet is violently shaking in waves. Subconsciously, Su Chen looked up at the sky above his head. In an instant, he widened his eyes. At the end of the line of sight, above the towering sky shrouded in clouds and mist, 9 dragons pulling coffin, Immortal Island in the present world. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. 9 dragons pulling coffin, Immortal Island in the present world, 10,000 people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The top of Mount Taishan mountain. At this moment, it is completely chaotic. Thousands of people are exclaiming and screaming. The earth beneath their feet is trembling. Even the giant rocks on the mountaintop began to shake and fall. Sleeping trough, has there been an earthquake? What ghost? Mount Taishan will also have an earthquake. It's over. A few thousand meters high mountaintop is hit by an earthquake, so it can't be directly cool. Woo-woo. Mom. I'm afraid. Roaming and rumbling, a deafening sound echoed in people's ears. Thousands of tourists, men and women, young and old, on the top of Mount Taishan mountain are scared out of their wits. They all thought it was an earthquake. But just as people were rushing towards the broad flat ground on the mountaintop, they were all in a hurry. A sharp scream suddenly erupted from the crowd. Sleeping trough. In the sky. Even on the noisy mountaintop, this exclamation of surprise is enough to resonate in everyone's ears. Subconsciously, many people raised their heads and looked up at the sky. And immediately afterwards, they all widened their eyes and their faces were filled with shock. So, what is that? Someone trembled and spoke. It's not an earthquake, it seems to have caused the commotion. Someone exclaimed in surprise and shouted loudly. Once this statement is made, the tourists who were originally hiding their heads and fleeing around also stopped in their tracks. It's not an earthquake. They instinctively looked up at the sky. The next moment, everyone opened their mouths wide and stayed in place. Only see. On the sky above Mount Taishan. Amidst the swirling clouds and mist. 9 terrifying creatures with deep and dark bodies were slowly approaching, pulling a huge coffin. This creature is so big that words cannot describe it. Each one, at first glance, looks over a kilometer long. They are overhead, almost blocking the sky and sun. It is still sunny noon, but because of their appearance, they have blocked almost all the sunshine and cast a shadow on the top of Mount Taishan mountain. Is that a dragon? Someone suddenly lost their voice and shouted. Once this statement is made, people's gaze dared to further observe and scrutinize the 9 massive creatures. Although many parts of their bodies are hidden in the clouds, people have still discovered many detailed features. Horn like deer, head like cow, eyes like shrimp, mouth like donkey, belly like snake, scales like fish, feet like phoenix, beard like human, ears like elephant. Except for the deep and dark color, almost all the features match the legendary dragon. Dragon. Jiulong pulls the coffin. There were young people shouting and shouting, their expressions almost like madness. He reads so many novels that he can even shout out the name of this scene directly. Jiulong pulls the coffin. At the top of Mount Taishan mountain, thousands of people all stayed in place. At this moment, without exception, their brains have lost their cognitive function and become completely numb. When Jiulong pulls the coffin, it's just the beginning. In the sight of countless tourists. As the 9 dark divine dragons rose and fell in the clouds. Behind them. Suddenly, there was a fierce and dazzling golden light flashing. Many people even instinctively covered their eyes. And when the golden light dissipated, they cast their gaze again. At the top of Mount Taishan mountain, there was a sound of air conditioning. That's an island. A fairy island suspended in the sky for thousands of miles. The area of Xiandao is extremely large, with a radius of over tens of kilometers. Why is it called Xiandao? Because in the sight of countless people, the floating island shines brightly and is shrouded in fairy mist. Even vaguely, a few huge cranes that covered the sky and sun could be seen revealing their bodies. The most exaggerated thing is on the fairy island, people clearly see buildings. That seems to be a pavilion, located in the center of Xiandao. The tower is extremely high, and the top has already penetrated deeply into the clouds. Under the pavilion, there seem to be pavilions and pavilions with withered flowers, and clear springs and flowing water faintly visible. Thousands of tourists at the top of Mount Taishan were completely stunned. And it's not just them. If only they had noticed the vision of 9 dragons pulling coffins before. Now this 10,000-mile fairy island floats in the air, with scenes that cover the sky and sun, almost hundreds of kilometers on the ground, all at a glance. Oh my, it's getting dark. First there is the 9 dragons coffin, and then there is the immortal island present. Did the immortal descend to earth? At the top of Mount Taishan, someone could not help shouting. But no one can give an answer. The only thing they can do is stand there dumbfounded. Looking at the fairy island in the sky, they came slowly to the top of Mount Taishan mountain where they were. Even at this moment, no one rings and takes out their phones, videos or photos. Their minds were completely confused, and their brains were all blank. No one had recovered yet. Boom boom. The floating fairy island is getting closer and closer. They have already been perpendicular to the top of Mount Taishan mountain. Brush, at this moment. A golden light scattered from the fairy island. This light is too dazzling, people only feel that their vision is blurry. Then, when they looked up again. Only then did I realize that the fairy island suddenly plunged deeper into the sky, until most of the fairy island disappeared into the clouds and mist at a height of thousands of miles, and finally stopped. At this moment. Of course, no one can notice. A young figure who was originally standing on a remote boulder on the mountaintop disappeared with the dazzling golden light before. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Sign in rewards, top spirit Meridian, gathering spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thousands of miles high. Above the floating fairy island. Su Chen has already set foot on this land at this moment. To be honest. Just now, whether it was Jiulong pulling the coffin or Xiandao's current life, the movements were indeed extremely exaggerated. Even though he knew in advance that this was the system distributing rewards, he was equally shocked. After all, whether in his past or present life, he was a good child who grew up under the influence of materialism. When have you seen such a rare fantasy scene in a fantasy world? Ding. Detected that the host has completed the university site selection task. New task released. Main task. Enroll at least 1,000 students. Task deadline. 3 months. Hear a sudden system prompt sound. Su Chen was slightly taken aback. Recruiting students for the main task. To be honest, this task did not surprise him. After all, the site selection for universities has been completed now, and according to the system, this floating fairy island has become the main campus of the university. With the school in place, the next step is naturally enrollment. Just now this is the 9 dragons coffin pulling in the Immortal Island's present world, causing such a big commotion. I'm afraid we've already alarmed the official Blue Star team, but we're going to start recruiting students from universities instead. Will this be too disruptive for the public? Su Chen recalled the reactions of countless tourists at the top of Mount Taishan just now, and his expression was a little strange. He heard many people shouting, "Immortals descend to Earth." The result is such a big fairy island, do you tell them it's a university? But I haven't thought much about it yet for Su Chen. Ding. Detected a severe shortage of university facilities, triggering a side quest. Branch task. Improve the building facilities of Xiuxian University. Task deadline. Unlimited. Reminder. The system check.in function has been opened, and the host can obtain various university building facilities, as well as university faculty members through daily check.in. The host has not checked in yet today. Would you like to sign in immediately? Upon hearing a series of system prompts, Su Chen was slightly taken aback and instinctively said, "Check in." Ding. Today's check.in has been completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 top-level spiritual pulse and 1 top-level spirit gathering array. Top-level spiritual pulse. The highest level spiritual pulse in the cultivation world, which helps to increase the concentration of spiritual energy and can also excavate top-quality spiritual stones. Top-level spirit gathering formation. The highest level spirit gathering formation in the cultivation world. After deployment, it can gather spiritual energy from heaven and earth, greatly improving the cultivation environment. The check.in reward has been issued. As the system prompt sounds down. Next up. Su Chen saw a series of void cracks emerging on the Immortal Island in front of him. And a massive spiritual vein spanning dozens of miles emerged from it, and then it roared and sank into the depths of the land of Xiandao. At the same time, countless flags also appeared in all directions, instantly sitting down. And a spirit-gathering formation covering the entire Immortal Island was also arranged accordingly. It's just a momentary effort. Su Chen clearly felt the spiritual energy of the surrounding world, which was more than 10 times stronger than before. You should know that this Immortal Island was originally filled with spiritual energy. Now, with a tenfold increase, the spiritual energy has become incredibly strong. So much so that even if Su Chen just took a deep breath, he felt that his spiritual power had increased a lot. You should know that although he has the cultivation of building a foundation, he actually does not even have the most basic spiritual energy breathing method. But that's it, even the simplest deep breath seemed to loosen one's realm. The concentration of this spiritual energy is truly outrageous. Even the true sex holy sites in the cultivation world may not be as good as here, right? I was originally worried that the Blue Star people had ordinary qualifications, and even if they could recruit students, they wouldn't be able to cultivate immortality for 10.5 years. But now it seems that at this level of rich spiritual energy, even an old sow can practice qi and build a foundation. After secretly feeling for a while, Su Chen also had a rough plan for the next action. Don't rush to enroll for now. The university facilities are not perfect, and there is not even a teacher to teach. It's better to silently sign in for a month first, and then improve these shortcomings through sign-in rewards. After a month, when all the facilities and teaching staff are almost ready, we will officially recruit students from the outside world. The unique cultivation university in the world, recruiting 1,000 students, shouldn't it be a big problem? Su Chen is still preparing for the university enrollment plan on the Fairy Island, which is thousands of miles high. Above the ground. In particular, the area of Mount Taishan, which is 100 miles around, has become a complete sensation. The top of Mount Taishan. As the sound of Xiandao's birth disappeared, the earth beneath the tourists finally stopped trembling. The previously deafening sound also disappeared without a trace. Can above their heads, the floating fairy island with a radius of tens of thousands of miles still stands quietly. Reminding all the tourists present, everything that happened before was not a dream, but a reality. Until now. These previously stunned tourists were all dumbfounded. Finally, one by one, they eagerly took out their phones and began to convey their exaggerated and incredible experiences to the outside world. 9 dragons pull coffins, Immortal Island in this world. This is destined to cause a sensation throughout the country. No, it is destined to cause a sensation throughout the entire Blue Star. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Hot search first, Immortal Island now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello, Liang. It's me. I came to Mount Taishan today to climb the mountain. Now it's on the top of the mountain. Guess what I saw just now? 9 dragons coffin, Immortal Island in the present world. How much fantasy do I have after reading novels? No, I'm serious. It really happened, I saw it with my own eyes. You still don't believe it? Hee, wait for the news. Husband, are you still at work? I'm here to talk to you about something important. I came hiking with my best friend today and met a fairy. Really, what did I lie to you for? I even saw a dragon. It's so big. No, it's 9. There's also a big fairy island floating in the sky, it's still there now. I'll make a video for you to watch too. Brothers, people are in Mount Taishan, and the live broadcast has just started. Damn it, today is definitely the most shocking day of my life. You can never imagine what I just saw. 9 dragons coffin, Immortal Island in the present world. Grandmate, my mind is still numb until now. I just regained my senses and didn't even call my parents and brothers to talk about this. I just started live streaming and shared it with my fans. The main focus is on being a pet fan. Hee, some viewers don't believe it. The barrage says I'm crazy. Then I'll show you through the live broadcast camera, what does it mean to be a floating fairy island in the sky for thousands of miles. It is not just the thousands of tourists at the top of Mount Taishan. In fact, due to the significant movements of the Kowloon Coffin and Xiandao in the present world, people within a radius of 100 miles could only see it by looking up. Therefore, these people are also crazily sharing stories with various family and friends, and even uploading videos they have taken before. For a while, the entire network is completely sensational. Especially after a very clear video recording was exposed. Countless people, crazy. Crouching trough, is that a dragon? That's definitely a dragon. Nima, the 9 dragons coffin pulling, is the plot of this novel now unfolding in reality. What truly shakes the world is Xiandao. Such a big Xiandao. I just want to know, is there still a fairy on the Immortal Island? Is there really a fairy in this world? I was originally a young man of the new era who didn't believe in ghosts, gods, or science, but after watching this video, I panicked. It said that the fairy island is still on the top of Mount Taishan mountain, and you can see it if you look up for 100 miles around. Now I don't know how many people all over the country are running to Mount Taishan mountain. Under the discussion of millions of netizens. Less than half an hour has passed since the present day Xiandao. This topic has already reached the top of hot searches with strong momentum. Even not only on domestic networks, some good people have uploaded videos to foreign pipelines. Without any accidents, it is also a complete sensation. Countless people are eagerly discussing this unprecedented miracle scene. That's right, it's just a fairy tale. Whether it's dragons or immortal islands, these are not things that conventional science can explain. At first, some experts debunked the rumor that it was a mirage and didn't need to be taken seriously. But after netizens presented more and more clear photos and even video evidence, experts also fell silent. Not to mention, the fairy islands are floating on Mount Taishan now. In fact, the sensation caused by this incident is not limited to the general public. Huaxia official, also completely shocked. Imperial capital. A place with extremely tight security. This is the location of the Huaxia Special Affairs Bureau. Huaxia Special Affairs Bureau is an extremely mysterious and powerful organization. It's not that there are any extraordinary beings or cultivators in this world that they need to deal with, but whenever there are unconventional events in China, such as suspected UFOs or foreign spy lurking, they are handled by the China Special Affairs Bureau. Now, the conference room of the headquarters of the Imperial Capital Huaxia Special Affairs Bureau. The atmosphere was extremely serious and silent. There aren't many people present, but each one has a strong background. In front of each of them, there was a pile of information placed. This is the most detailed first-hand information about the immortal island of Mount Taishan today. In front of the conference room, there stands a big shot with a red star hanging on his shoulder, who is not angry but self-righteous. What do you all think of this matter? The leader spoke in a low voice, breaking the atmosphere of silence. I contacted the local branch to which Mount Taishan belongs. According to their preliminary test, the possibility of mirage was ruled out. The speaker was a middle-aged man with a red star hanging on his shoulder. I just contacted an expert in meteorology from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and his judgment is also consistent. This is not a mirage or optical scene. Someone immediately spoke up. As the words fell, the atmosphere in the conference room fell silent again. It's been a while. The Red Star leader just spoke softly. It's not a mirage, nor is it an optical scene. Is it true that, as the people say, immortals have descended to the mortal world? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5 Official Response. Blocking Mount Taishan and Fighters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the conference room. As the leader finished speaking this sentence, everyone looked at each other, and for a moment, no one spoke up to refute. It's not that I don't want to argue, but I can't argue. Judging from various signs, although the claim of immortals descending to Earth is the most absurd, it is also the closest explanation. Otherwise, whether it's 9 dragons pulling coffins or Immortal Island in this world, nothing can be explained. This has exceeded the scope of science, and is completely within the realm of metaphysics and even fantasy. Whether it's a fairy or not remains to be seen. Let's first discuss the solution to this matter. Do you have any opinions? The leader spoke again. This time, it has caused a lot of answers. I suggest that the Mount Taishan area be blockaded first, and a strict military blockade. No individual or official is allowed to enter the Mount Taishan area, especially the top of Mount Taishan mountain, until the situation is completely clear. After hearing this plan, the leader pondered slightly and nodded. A military blockade is undoubtedly necessary. This can also minimize the occurrence of accidents. After all, if it's really a fairy descending to Earth, who knows if the other person is an enemy or a friend? This kind of thing cannot be taken at risk. The safety and interests of the people should be given top priority. Secondly, I suggest implementing a certain degree of control over fishing vessels. On the internet today, millions or even billions of people are discussing this matter, which is not a good phenomenon. As soon as this statement was made, the leader's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and soon it also sparked opposition from others. I cannot agree with this plan. This event is so dynamic that it has been seen and heard for hundreds of miles around Mount Taishan. Not to mention that countless images have been completely spread on the internet nowadays, and control is absolutely impossible, even counterproductive. As soon as the words fell, the previous person immediately followed suit and asked. Does that make the public think it's a fairy descending to Earth? This is absolutely extremely detrimental to social stability. As the two of them were about to argue again, the leader coughed lightly and interrupted the conversation. Do you have any other opinions besides this? The words fell. A military man sitting in the front seat of the conference room spoke in a low voice. I personally think that this matter can mobilize the military. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was suddenly surprised. The leader nodded slightly and said, "You keep talking." The man in military uniform took a deep breath and slowly said, 9 dragons pull coffins, let's not worry about it for now, let's talk about floating Immortal Island. Now, according to the data from all parties, the fairy island has not disappeared after its death, but still hovers thousands of miles above Mount Taishan. I personally believe that we should dispatch fighter jets to investigate the situation on this Immortal Island, in order to obtain more information and intelligence. As soon as the man in military uniform finished speaking, there was a commotion in the conference room. Dispatch fighter jets for reconnaissance. But if there were really immortals on that Immortal Island, wouldn't that offend or even anger the other party? The man in military uniform snorted coldly upon hearing this. Immortals. In my Chinese territory, even if immortals want to cause trouble, they have to ask our military if they agree or not. Amidst the resounding words, there is a plethora of soldiers with iron blood and fighting spirit. After listening, the leader nodded in approval, but then let out a low sigh. That being said. But if it were really some immortal approaching the mortal world, it would be an unimaginable event for China and even the entire Blue Star, and it could even be a disaster. Just as the discussion reached a deadlock in the meeting, the man in military uniform suddenly stood up from his seat, and with an extremely standard military salute, he spoke in a deep voice. I still suggest deploying fighter jets for reconnaissance. Our discussion is meaningless until we clarify the information and intelligence of Xiandao. Similarly, only with clear information and intelligence can we make better response plans. Once this statement is made, the conference room fell into a long silence. Several minutes passed by. After repeated discussions and voting, as well as the approval of the leader, the plan has finally been finalized. First of all, block the 100-mile area around Mount Taishan. The people in the area are being evacuated and resettled by the authorities. Secondly, deploy 3 state-of-the-art Air Force fighter jets to approach the floating fairy island for reconnaissance intelligence. At the same time, the ground will also provide synchronized firepower support for ground-to-air missiles to prevent accidents from happening. Finally, in terms of public opinion, there are no restrictions in China, but for foreign countries, information must be kept confidential. Although this immortal island has brought great pressure to China, there may also be opportunities in it. Until the specific information becomes clear, we cannot allow this matter to ferment and spread internationally. This can also prevent the targeting and destruction of some international hostile forces. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Shenlong. First, do a reel. You are listening at novel full.audio. Thousands of miles high, floating fairy island. Or now it can be called the Xiuxian University headquarters. Su Chen didn't even know that Xiandao's current existence had attracted official attention, and even fighter jets were ready to be deployed. Previously, Su Chen had been wandering and observing around this immortal island. Firstly, the land area occupied by Xiandao is not small. A radius of nearly 100 kilometers. Even with Su Chen's current level of cultivation and speed in building foundations, it took 1 or 2 hours to roughly understand the layout of Xiandao. It is worth mentioning. Although this immortal island is a reward given to Su Chen by the system, it exists as the main campus of the future Cultivation University. But currently, Su Chen does not have 100% authority over this immortal island. Just like the western part of Xiandao, there seems to be a spiritual beast garden-like existence. Among them, there are cranes flying and exotic beasts roaring. But Su Chen now has no authority to step into it, and is instead blocked by a thick mist. Perhaps this is what the system previously called teaching facilities, which have not been unlocked yet and require check.in to obtain them. Su Chen had a secret guess in his heart. There are many places on the entire fairy island, such as the Spirit Beast Garden. But without exception, they are all shrouded in fog and temporarily unable to enter. However, the pavilions and towers in the center of Xiandao are completely open to Su Chen. At this moment, Su Chen was standing under a 100-zhang tall pavilion. The overall style of the pavilion is quaint. The 4 eaves face the sky, straight into the clouds. What is that? Su Chen noticed the faint shadow at the top of the pavilion with his gaze, and couldn't help but ask in his heart. Ding! This is the core of Xiandao, the treading heaven pavilion. Above the heavenly pavilion, there is a fairy island guarding the fairies and a golden dragon with good luck. Qi Luck Golden Dragon. It can suppress one's Qi luck and protect the floating immortal island. Its power is determined by the overall strength of Xiuxian University. There are no students or teachers at the current Xiuxian University, and the Qi Luck Golden Dragon possesses the most basic strength. The period of transforming the spirit. Note: the host can establish and develop a cultivation university to enhance the strength of the Qi Golden Dragon, and in the future, they can fight against the existence of true immortals. After listening to the system's explanation, Su Chen couldn't help but take a cold breath. Good guy. Do you even have divine objects like the Jiulong in the cultivation fantasy novels? This guy is quite amazing. Su Chen looked up and gazed into the distance. Finally, through the shrouded clouds and mist, I could see the true appearance of the Qi Golden Dragon. Its whole body is slightly unreal, but it is also shining with golden light. Its body is extremely large, almost covering the sky and sun. Just as Su Chen's gaze was on him, the auspicious golden dragon in the clouds seemed to have noticed and looked down. A pair of dragon eyes are like two great suns hanging in the sky at this moment. And the next moment. Before Su Chen could think much, the scene before him was a moment of confusion. Next up. That lucky golden dragon actually appeared in front of him. Just. At some point, this golden dragon had transformed its form. At this moment it was no longer as vast as a mountain range, but about 10 meters long, suspended in the space in front of him. That pair of dragon eyes were also staring directly at Su Chen, full of spirituality and wisdom. And even more incredible is. At this moment, Jiulong actually took the initiative to lightly rub his dragon head against Su Chen's body, as if he was acting coquettishly. Hiss. Use this to test cadres. Which cadre can withstand such a test? Even Su Chen couldn't help but smile at the moment. This is a real dragon. The totem inheritance of China since ancient times, the real dragon. I'll call you Xiaojin in the future, how about it? Su Chen gently stroked the dragon's head while asking softly. Once this statement is made. Xiaojin's big eyes blinked, and then the dragon head nodded up and down. Then, with a hissing sound, he wandered and danced in the air with a whoosh. It is obvious that Xiaojin has been given a name, and his mood at this moment is very happy. Ha ha ha. Upon seeing this, Su Chen couldn't help but laugh happily. To some extent, I have an extra lucky golden dragon as a pet. Xiaojin, can you take me flying? Su Chen saw Xiaojin fidgeting for a while and looked forward to asking. Actually, he had this idea since seeing Xiaojin for the first time just now. Riding the wind and riding the dragon, this is the dream of many young boys. Now that everyone has a golden dragon pet, Su Chen has no reason not to try to be a true dragon knight. Faced with Su Chen's request, Xiaojin did not disappoint him. In a daze. Su Chen couldn't even notice how Xiaojin acted. The next moment. He felt like he was in the clouds. And under my feet. It is precisely the reincarnation of the Qi Golden Dragon, Little Jin, which is the size of a mountain range. At this moment. Xiaojin was shuttling up and down in the clouds, while Su Chen stood tall and upright on the dragon's head. Xiaojin's speed was extremely fast, and within a few somersaults, it seemed as if he had left Xiandao for several hundred kilometers. Standing on Xiaojin's body, Su Chen still felt his feet incredibly stable, without any bumps, as if he was truly stepping on the ground. However, just as Su Chen rode on Xiaojin, he became addicted to flying like a dragon. When I finally returned to the fairy island again, accompanied by a sudden roar of dragons from Xiaojin, the unexpected guest from floating Immortal Island suddenly arrived. P.S. Newcomers, new books, trying new themes. Does anyone have a chance to read them? The author is looking for some fresh flower tickets to support them. Kowtow, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. The arrival of J.20 fighters. Immortal Island terrifying. You are listening at novel full.audio. Time goes back slightly. While Su Chen was still riding the dragon riding wind. A secret military base hundreds of kilometers away from Mount Taishan. 3 of China's most advanced J.20 fighter jets have been loaded and ready for deployment. An hour ago. This military base has received the highest order from the superior military. It is required to dispatch 3 fighters at the fastest speed to investigate the information of the floating fairy island suddenly appearing in Mount Taishan area. Now. After a series of rigorous and thorough preparations, the 3 best fighter pilots from China have also been in place. They have all experienced numerous complex flight missions, and each one is a first-class achievement in life. Old Chen, what do you think of this mission? The ground crew is still conducting a final inspection of the aircraft's condition, and 3 fighter pilots are gathered together. The one who spoke was Liu Shanhe, one of the best fighter pilots in the Eastern Theater Command of China, who was urgently dispatched this time. He didn't know much beforehand about the situation of this mission. Explore a floating fairy island. To be honest, he felt disbelief from the bottom of his heart. There are no immortals in this world, this is a materialistic world that talks about science. I have heard a little about the floating fairy island. But to be honest, I don't quite understand why the boss reacted so strongly and even transferred us to carry out this task. Old Chen stared at the fighter jet not far away, murmured, and then turned his head to look beside him. Liang, what do you think? Liang is the youngest among the 3 of them, and he is also the most talkative one on a regular basis. However, at this moment, he fell into a rare silence. Unlike Liu Shanhe and Lao Chen's completely skeptical attitude towards floating Immortal Island. Liang, before being transferred to the military base to carry out his mission. He happened to take his family on a trip to Mount Taishan. He witnessed with his own eyes the entire city of Kowloon dragons and floating Immortal Island. As one of the best fighter pilots in China, Liang has carried out many unknown covert missions. He even personally participated in the legendary UFO events. But there has never been a task like today. Make him feel indescribable excitement, unease, tension, and even fear from the bottom of his heart. The power of that immortal miracle is simply an unimaginable shock for ordinary people. But these things, Liang did not explain to his 2 comrades in arms. It's not because he doesn't trust, but because he knows it's meaningless to say it. For that immortal island, Liang has 10,000 curiosities waiting to be answered in his heart, and this reconnaissance mission is the best opportunity. Thousands of miles high, the engine roars. 3 of China's most advanced J.20 fighters, in a triangular formation, approach the Mount Taishan area at full speed. On the fighter jet, the most advanced radar detection and imaging technology have been installed. In fact, in a place that the 3 pilots cannot see. 1,000 miles away in the imperial capital, a group of high-ranking officials from the Special Affairs Bureau also gathered in the conference room. The projection on the large screen in front of the conference room is also the live broadcast recorded by the fighter jet. This information investigation on Xiandao is unprecedented seriousness and solemnity. Finally, when the aircraft approached the area about 100 kilometers around Mount Taishan, in everyone's view, a huge and unimaginable floating island has emerged. It is as huge as a mountain range. Unfortunately, it hovers unsupported at an altitude of tens of thousands of miles. Amidst the swirling clouds and mist, even faintly visible on the fairy island are pavilions, towers, and cranes fluttering everywhere. At this moment, 3 fighter pilots who have witnessed various grand scenes and even stepped on the gates of hell, their hearts skipped a beat. Liu Shanhe and Lao Chen widened their eyes, opened their mouths, and looked incredulous. Liang's gaze was inexplicable, with a glint of brilliance in it. Floating Immortal Island, it really exists. What I saw at the foot of Mount Taishan mountain before is nothing false. Long, the roar of fighter jet engines echoed through the sky. The distance between the 3 fighter jets and Sendao is also getting closer and closer. At the same time, the high-precision detection instruments equipped on the fighter jet have all started to work. Can Z. ZZZZ. Just as the fighter jet finally approached an area of 50 kilometers around Sendao, the urgent malfunction sound suddenly rang out from the corner. Radar malfunction. GPS positioning malfunction. Weapon system malfunction. At this moment, it's like crossing a 50-kilometer area in an instant. All instruments on the fighter jet are malfunctioning. All data instruments in front of the pilot are black. Lu Shanhe, Liangchen, and Liang. After being greatly shocked, he switched to fully manual driving and urgently adjusted the aircraft's attitude to maintain stability, which was the best Air Force pilot in China. The truly terrifying thing happened immediately after. Although the engines of the fighter jet were still trembling with a rumbling sound. Although the throttle in their hands did not slack at all. But their distance from Xiandao seems to have frozen forever at this moment. Unable to get any closer to Xiandao. Similarly, we cannot move any further, even an inch or a meter away. If we could see the scene of thousands of miles above the ground clearly. So you will find out. These 3 fighter jets are strangely hovering at this moment. No, they are fixed in mid-air and cannot move. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Besides the real dragon in Chapter 8, there are also immortals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Call the tower, call the tower. ZZZZ. At this moment, no matter how Liangchen and the others called, the sound coming from the earphones was piercing electrical noise. And the next moment. Roar. An indescribable voice came from above the fairy island. Whether it's Liangchen, Lu Shanhe, or Liang. At the moment of hearing this roar, the brain was completely blank. Or rather, in their brains, a shadow of a creature appeared all at once. That's a dragon. Roar. Another roar. This voice seemed to possess not only spiritual terror but also 3 fighter jets made of the most advanced materials, which began to tremble strongly at this moment. It seems that the next moment, the fighter jet is about to disintegrate and shatter. Unfortunately, at this critical moment, the roar that echoed through heaven and earth suddenly stopped. Until now, Liangchen and 3 other pilots finally regained their senses from a blank slate in their brains. They found that their backs were already sweating profusely. And in front of them, above the fairy island in the distance of vision. Eminent. A golden, massive dragon that covered the sky and sun, writhing and weaving through the clouds and mist. It's a dragon. There are really dragons in this world. Old Chen, who has always believed in science and always sneered at ghosts and gods, trembled and spoke up. In the view of the 3 people, the golden dragon flew out from the fairy island. At a distance of 50 kilometers, it was almost just a dazzling sight, and the golden dragon was already suspended in front of their fighter jet. They couldn't see the full body of Jiulong clearly at this moment. Because in their field of vision, there is only one pair of eyes. A dragon eye even larger than a fighter jet, staring straight at the 3 of them. Even among the dragons, the 3 of them can also read some expressions of emotions. That's anger, curiosity, doubts, even vaguely feeling a bit aggrieved. At this moment, the person floating in front of the fighter jet is not anyone else, but Xiao Jin. Su Chen was also standing on Xiao Jin's head. Of course. Because Xiao Jin is now manifesting his true form, his body size is simply too large. Therefore, in the view of Liangchen and his pilots, they could only see a pair of huge and unimaginable dragon eyes, and could not see Su Chen above the dragon head. As for the grievances that appeared in Xiao Jin's big eyes, it's not that Liangchen and his team felt wrong, it's really Xiao Jin really feels a bit aggrieved now. Just now, Xiao Jin gang carried Su Chen out to explore for a while and returned to Xiandao. Just as it returned to the Xiandao area, it sensed an invasion from an external enemy. Xiao Jin, as the guardian fairy of Xiandao, anyone who approaches Xiandao without Su Chen's permission is naturally an intruder. Therefore, Xiao Jin then utilized his divine realm power. Directly locked the void where the 3 fighter jets were located. At the same time, with a hint of anger, he was ready to blow these invaders into dust in one breath. Undoubtedly, Xiao Jin has this ability. At the same time, it also does something to show its intention in front of Su Chen, the new owner. After all, as a fairy beast, its responsibility is to protect the fairy island. Unfortunately, Su Chen stopped it. This has made Xiao Jin feel extremely aggrieved. Therefore, at this moment, it blinked its house-sized eyes and looked at these intruders with a hint of curiosity. Xiao Jin wants to know why the owner wants to show mercy by saying so himself. On the other side, Su Chen stood on top of Xiao Jin's head and saw the full picture of the fighter jet. Is this the most advanced fighter jet in China today? Is it still in a state of fully loaded ammunition? Are you trying to attack Xiandao? No, there's a higher possibility of investigating information and intelligence on Xiandao. Su Chen's gaze fell on the bright red flag on the fuselage of the fighter jet, pondering to himself. At this moment of thought, Su Chen also made a decision. In terms of emotion and reason, this fighter jet cannot be destroyed. But if we just put it down lightly, will there be fighter jets coming to investigate around Xiandao every day? Will our university still be open? Furthermore, this time, it was precisely because Su Chen was by Xiao Jin's side that he stopped it in time. If I didn't pay attention and happened to have a fighter jet invading the Xiandao area, and was completely enraged by Xiao Jin, how could I deal with it? Although Su Chen is fearless, how troublesome and troublesome. Roar. As Su Chen's mind moved, Xiao Jin let out another roar and dragon roar. The 3 pilots in the fighter jet were all grand and didn't dare to take a breath, staring at Xiao Jin's huge dragon eyes as if facing a big enemy. But at this moment, a man's voice, without any warning, suddenly rang in their ears, no, deep in their minds. Xiandao is a 100-mile radius, restricted area, no entry. Don't say it's unexpected. This is naturally Su Chen's voice. As a foundation-building cultivator, Su Chen still knows the basic skills of divine sense transmission. But what he doesn't know is how shocking it was for the 3 pilots in the fighter jet, including Liangchen, to make such a casual move. The shock is so profound that it even surpasses the previous appearance of Xiao Jin. Besides the real dragon, there are also immortals. Old Chen in the fighter jet listened to the words in his mind, trembling his lips, his whole body trembling. Also, there's something I might need your help with in a while. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. The Transmission of Immortals and the Shock of the Masters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Imperial Capital. A certain conference room. The big shots from the Special Affairs Bureau looked at the black screen on the projection screen and fell into silence. And in the conference room, the voice of the communication officer rang out softly. Based on repeated confirmation from military bases and towers, all 3 of our dispatched fighter jets have been lost. At the same time, the Beidou GPS positioning in the 100-mile radius of Xiandao has also been completely ineffective. In the conference room, the atmosphere became increasingly silent and oppressive. Just before, they were able to glimpse some of the footage of Sendao through live streaming on video devices on the fighter jet. But I haven't waited for everyone to carefully analyze yet. Video live streaming directly loses signal. At the same time, the fighter jet also completely lost contact with the tower. Now, the whereabouts of 3 fighter jets are unknown, and the lives of all pilots are uncertain. All of this happened in an instant. On the Immortal Island, there is great terror. At present, the only thing to be thankful for is that our ground troops stationed in Mount Taishan have not found any signs of aircraft falling. The communication officer looked at the group of silent experts and added a faint sentence. It took quite a while. In the end, the military tycoon who was the first in the conference room broke the silence by speaking up. What information did the experts analyze from the footage recorded before the fighter plane lost contact? Once this statement is made, the rest of the people in the conference room were also refreshed and sat up. The previous communication officer nodded quickly upon hearing this and continued. Based on discussions and analysis by military intelligence experts, I have a rough summary and inference of information about Xiandao. Firstly, Xiandao covers an area of about 100 miles and is suspended at an altitude of tens of thousands of miles. Experts have repeatedly confirmed this through video materials and can come to this conclusion, but the communication officer paused for a moment before continuing, but so far, no scientific evidence has been found that Immortal Island can hover in the air. Once this statement is made, the faces of the big shots in the conference room changed slightly. No scientific basis. In other words, the possibility of Xiandao is one more point higher. What else? What conclusions do experts have regarding the pavilions, towers, and even cranes seen in the previous footage? The military tycoon spoke in a low voice and asked after him. The communication officer hesitated for a moment. Then he said in a faint voice. Regarding this point, according to the analysis of several military meteorological experts, these images are not optical phenomena of mirages, but rather real existence. Once this statement is made, just like throwing giant rocks on the surface of a dull lake, it immediately caused waves and waves. In the conference room, several big shots can't sit still. Isn't it an optical phenomenon? Are all the pavilions, towers, cranes, and birds on the Immortal Island real? So what this means is, Xiandao is just that, and there may even be immortals on it. The young man in military uniform who initially proposed deploying a fighter jet spoke up. The expression on his face at this moment is full of disbelief. But no one can answer his question. In the conference room, once again fell into a long silence. At this moment, even the communication officer dared not speak. The group of big shots in the conference room were almost all frowning and thinking heavily. Based on the information currently available, although it is very unbelievable, but the supernatural power seems to have truly arrived. Floating Immortal Island. Tower Crane. Immortal, this is a cultural legend of China since ancient times. With the rapid development of science and technology, people are increasingly treating it as a legend. Can everything that happens now, but almost completely overturning and crushing everyone's past cognition. However, for this group of big shots in the conference room, in addition to being shocked, they need to consider more. If there really is a fairy coming down, how should China respond and deal with itself? Are they enemies or friends with humans on Earth? And just as the big shots frowned and furrowed their brows, the communication officer suddenly received a message encrypted from a military base. With a cry of surprise, it exploded in the conference room. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the communication officer. At this moment, the communication officer's eyes were wide open, and his brain had almost lost all of its thinking ability. In the end, it was the little secretary on the side who reminded him that he finally came to his senses. Then, his voice trembled completely as he read out the message that had just arrived from the military base. Just now, 3 missing fighter jets have returned. The 3 pilots all brought back the same information. They said. At this point, the communication officer gritted his teeth and seemed unsure how to speak. After all, this information is too absurd and unbelievable. What did you say? The top military officer in the conference room frowned slightly and asked in a deep voice. Upon hearing this, the communication officer took a deep breath and recited in one breath. 3 pilots said, they have met a real dragon. It is the kind of real dragon in the Chinese legend, described as having a body size comparable to mountains, with just a pair of eyes bigger than a fighter jet. And their fighter jets, under the control of the real dragon, not only instantly failed all instruments, but also the fighter jet was still rigidly frozen in space, unable to move forward or backward. And more importantly, besides the real dragon, there are also immortals. Even the fairy had them bring messages. As the communication officer fell with a trembling voice. A conference room filled with big shots. Trapped in a deathly silence and silence. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. The excitement of the masters. Zhibao Star Compass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did the fairy say? It took more than 10 minutes. Finally, the man in military uniform, who was the leader, spoke up and broke the oppressive atmosphere of silence. The communication officer gritted his teeth and said word by word. The Immortal said. Xiandao is a 100-mile radius, restricted area, no entry. Also say. Don't say it's unforeseeable. Once this statement is made. The crowd in the conference room breathed a rare sigh of relief. They are all big shots, but they are all human spirits. Although there were only a few short sentences, even the tone seemed extremely harsh. But they still recognized the deeper meaning behind it. Whether it's Xiandao or Xianren, they don't have much malice towards China itself. How are the 3 returning pilots doing? Thinking of this, the man in military uniform led by him couldn't help but ask a question. The communication officer immediately gave an answer. According to the military base, the pilot, including the fighter jet, did not suffer any harm. However, the pilot's emotions are currently somewhat unstable, and the base has arranged for psychotherapists to follow up further. The man in military uniform nodded at the words and finally let go of the last big stone in his heart. For the invasion investigation of the fighter jet, the Immortal still did not harm anyone, but only gave a verbal warning. This is already great goodwill and good news for them. Besides these, the Immortal also said one sentence. But at this moment, the voice of the communication officer rang out once again. The eyes of everyone in the conference room were instantly focused on each other. The communication officer spoke weakly. The Immortal said. There's a small matter that may require our help in a while. Once this statement is made. A group of people in the conference room, including the man in military uniform who was the leader, all stared wide-eyed and stood still. Stupid. This. Did the other party really say that? Even the most calm and composed man in military uniform couldn't help but ask a question. The communication officer nodded. The military base repeatedly checked with the 3 pilots, and their answers were all like this. The words fell. In the conference room, there was a chorus of inhaling sounds. After all, this is really too unbelievable. This fighter reconnaissance mission did not truly enter the realm of Sendai Island. But in fact, there is still a lot of information revealed. Firstly, Xiandao does exist. Secondly, There are creatures like dragons on Xiandao that can easily control or even destroy military weapons. Finally, the divine dragon has a master, and the immortal island has immortals. All this information has made a group of experts list Xiandao as the most mysterious, powerful, and least provoking force in their hearts. But now that the immortals have released their goodwill, they even suggest that they may need a little help in the future. Of course, the small busyness in the immortal population may not be small. But this sentence alone is also meaningful enough. The birth of Xiandao is not our crisis, but it is very likely. Opportunities in China. The leader of the military uniform suddenly stood up. His expression at this moment is full of seriousness and seriousness. As his words fell, everyone in the conference room also realized the enormous significance behind this so-called little busyness. For a while, the people in the conference room are no longer worried, their minds are heavy. Instead, they all let out a long sigh of relief. Thousands of miles high. Su Chen has returned to the Immortal Island. At this moment, he is located in the core of the Immortal Island, inside the Heavenly Pavilion. He was also not aware that his casual, little busyness, would excite the big shots uncontrollably. Su Chen is currently considering an extremely important issue. System. As far as I know, cultivating immortals requires talent, which is also known as spiritual roots, right? Although the concentration of spiritual energy in Xiandao is extremely high and the environment is good nowadays, the problem is. This is the end of the Dharma era. Do Earthlings really have spiritual roots that can be practiced? Even if there is, it's probably 1 in a billion. Yes. This is the problem that Su Chen suddenly realized just now. The system allows him to establish a university for cultivating immortality, so naturally it is to recruit students to teach them how to cultivate immortality. But the problem is, there is a threshold for cultivating immortals. And for today's Earth, this threshold is probably even higher than the sky. If none of the billions of people have spiritual roots, then my own cultivation university would be a hammer. I didn't ask Su Chen to wait too long, but the system gave an answer. But this answer surprised Su Chen very much. Ding! Although the Earth is in the end of the Dharma era, it is actually extremely special. Earthlings generally have spiritual roots, and even among them there are extremely talented individuals. Su Chen was stunned after listening. Good guy. Universal existence of spiritual roots. What is this concept? In the world of cultivating immortals, there is only one sole root that can cultivate immortals, right? After all, the vast majority of cultivators in the world of immortality are just ordinary people who have given birth, aging, illness, and death. Is the Earth even more powerful than the immortal realm? There are different levels of spiritual roots. It can be preliminarily divided into grades 1 to 9, with grade 1 being the lowest and grade 9 being the highest. It is recommended that the host delve deep into the core of the heaven-treading pavilion, where there is a treasure. The Star Compass. Star Compass can detect cultivation spiritual roots, physical qualifications, and more from the sky. Upon hearing this, Su Chen's eyes lit up. Star Compass, this is what you really need to recruit students and start a university. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.